Two for Chirping with Louie Caporusso. Lou, what is going on, my man?
Nothing much, Mosser. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too. We're a do-over right now. This is, by the way, because again, what do we talk about? Like we're shooting it, man. It's a shoot. We're just having fun.
All right.
So I call it for what it is. This is like the second or third episode of like the 6 or 7, I'll call it, that we've recorded where there's been some sort of technical blimp in the road. So
okay.
we just got done talking for 5 minutes, and now we're talking over again for 5 minutes. But those first 5 were exclusive, never before seen, never will be seen, other than the people in this room. But luckily, luckily, not luckily, like we have time. I mean, for you, like season's over. Mm-hmm. You're just, are you just kind of being a dad right now?
I'm being a dad. I'm filling out the honey-do list that my wife has for me at the house. I've been putting up drapes, putting up pictures, set up a garden yesterday.
Yeah? What are you planting? Yeah. Like, what is a garden for you?
So it's my wife's garden, really. I'm just doing all the hard work.
Okay.
So I had to kind of dig up the soil, turn it over a little bit, set up a nice little perimeter with some bricks. We bought some topsoil, laid that down, and my wife has some cherry tomatoes and cucumbers that she's planted. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been like nice actually being able to get caught up with all the things that needed to be done around the house.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps for her too. Like at the end of the day, I know you're married. I only have a girlfriend, but at the same time, it's kind of the same way. Like the season ends, and it's like, man, I'm happy to have you here, and here's some things I want you to do while you're home, right?
Yeah, big time. Things have been piling up, so I've been knocking some things off the list that just needed to be done.
I will say I'm not as I don't want to say unfortunate as you, but like I'm still in the apartment life, man, and I love it. Like I forget who it was. Sean's in the room here. It may have been Sean, but like there's a discussion I had with somebody months and months ago that was just like, is it more beneficial to rent than own right now? Especially in the buyer's market, dude, everything's up.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. It's as high as it's ever been in terms of, and especially inflation's as high as it's ever been in a while. So, housing, I'm hoping it kind of teeters and starts kind of making its way down. Even though I own a home, I still don't like when the market's so wild like it is, because I like to see, the youth be able to purchase a home and start building it as an investment and being able to set up their lives. Because although it is great to rent, unfortunately, you're kind of losing that money every month as opposed to putting that towards a mortgage.
I know. Listen, I get what you're saying, and that's the argument that I hear. Like a lot of times, like my parents are the ones that are saying that. Like eventually, you want that equity, but at the same time, like I even think from a convenience standpoint, because again, once October hits, like you and I are gone. Like we're zipped out of here for most of half a year. So it's nice when like. We had, what was it earlier this year? Like my apartment, I think we've only had one issue. I think it was like water.
Okay.
Like the water was just coming out cold in December, which was brutal. But you call somebody, they send somebody in, they've already got a master key to your unit, and then they fix it and there's no bill.
That's right.
Because it's just factored into your rent. Like, whereas if you have a house, like you got to wait, you got to be put on schedule. Somebody's got to be home to let them in or put a key under the doormat, and you're going to pay a bill for it, right?
100%. I find homes, they tend, like the things that you need to do for them tend to come in waves. It seems like one thing after another for a little part, maybe for like a month. It just seems like there's always something going on with the house. And then you may not have to do anything really structurally or for the water or anything like that for years, but there are times when it kind of adds up, and a house can be a job in itself. It all depends on how much you want to get involved with it.
Right.
And then like anybody who's ever done renovations, like I have done renovations, it's just, you can keep going, and it just, there's no cap on how extravagant you want to be with your home and how much you want to do with it. So you got to be able to control yourself at the same time, take care of the things that are going to pop up from time to time.
But isn't it hard though? Like if you're doing a renovation, because you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, like your house is your house. You can transform it if you want, flip that thing, from the inside out. But I mean, then again, there's the money factor, right? Because the more you start doing stuff, like, dude, I have no clue. Like I lived in a house my whole life until I was old enough to move out. And I've just rented ever since. But like, I can't even imagine if somebody's like, oh, I want to remodel a kitchen. Like that's a 4-figure
big time
thing, right? Like,
oh yeah, big time. I mean, I've done some renovations. I have a home in Toronto, and I've done some renovations back home. And your first couple trips to Home Depot are exciting, and then when you're on trip number 40, you just get sick of it. And then your card is just nonstop in that machine. And, you know, all of a sudden you want to do something else. And it kind of just adds up. And after a while, you have to put the brakes on and say, okay, I'm okay with it looking like this.
Yeah.
Or, you know, because people turn their homes into their main hobby. And if you do that, then, you know, hobbies can get expensive.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, though. Like, some people say, like, and I get this. Like, even from an apartment standpoint, I want where I live to be, in some ways, like, the best part of my day, if that makes sense, right? Like, because I come home happy, looking forward to it, and then I wake up happy because I'm in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, obviously, that goes back to putting more money in it. I mean, the tough part about rent, too, is, like, every year they raise it on you. You know, we're talking about renewing our lease here in Cincy, and it's like, you see some of the options you have, and, like, month to month, it's like, what happened?
That's right. And rent will increase with the price of homes as well. So you're not exactly, you know, is it Scot-free or Scotch-free?
I don't know. I've used that before.
I've had this debate with somebody before.
What would Scotch... Well, Scotch-free, like if somebody says that's Scotch-free, I'm going to assume like they're referring to like the alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like that makes more sense than Scot-free. Unless there was a guy one day named Scott-free.
Scott, yeah.
Or,
Maybe a listener will give us the answer to that.
There we go, yeah.
Maybe it's pretty embarrassing that we don't know, but who knows?
I don't think so. Oh man, what's some other things that
There's probably more people who don't know that than we think.
Yeah, for sure. There's, I'd have to sit here and think, and of course now I'm Johnny on the spot, so I'm trying to figure this out, but like, there are some cliches that I'm like, I don't know if I've ever said that right. You know what I mean?
Like play by ear.
Yes,
play by ear.
That's a great one. Play by ear or play by year?
That's right. It's not play by year. It's play by ear because my dad told me this. I think it has to do with a conductor. I think it has to do with music. So
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's okay, guys. We're gonna play by ear. So I think it's just play without looking at your notes. Everyone play together. Play by ear. So what you're hearing, go along with the music. I'm doing this because of the clarinet.
Yeah,
I'm a clarinet pro.
That's it. Not anything else. What was that?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to think now. Yeah, that like you explaining it to me right there at 27 years old is the first time I've ever heard that explanation.
Yeah.
And I used to think, and I guarantee before I'd be like, oh, we're gonna play it by year.
Yeah.
Which would be like, what the hell do you mean? Like, who's playing it by year? But for me, as somebody who's not like, call it, I don't know, clarinet inclined or whatever the heck it was that you were doing there. Like,
there's one thing that actually has always kind of frustrated me, and I don't know if I'm wrong in this, but I noticed that Americans, they always say offsides with an S at the end. Offsides. When a team's offside or you go offside.
I don't think I do. Not to pump my own tires. Like I
know so many. Whenever I'm in the States, it's offsides with an S, and I always say offside. The play is offside. Like you say offside with no S.
I believe so. Like like okay, here's Caporusso carries it on the right, whistle blows, and that will be offside.
Offside.
Like that would be what I would say. Because offsides now. Question to you: is offsides soccer term? Because there's an offside in soccer, or is it offside across the board?
It's just offside across the board. I notice. I mean, you can start paying attention to this.
I will.
It's even in football or in soccer. Any American commentators or Americans that I hang out with, offsides.
Okay.
With an S.
It's
a bit strange.
So this is a serious question, and you can be 100% honest. I'm not taking offense either way. At any point, have you heard even like a minute of my commentary, whether it's on highlights or no, or have you stayed away from them?
No, I've heard it.
Okay.
I've definitely heard it.
Okay. Because like the way I call things, I don't think there's any necessarily traditionalist view to it. I'm just very like, I know when to come up. I know when to stay down.
That's right.
I'll play something for you on this podcast because I'm not going to get in trouble for it because there's no copyright to it.
All right.
This is a call that I enjoyed yesterday. And maybe this guy's going to get famous.
Okay.
Let me see here. Just give me a minute as I find it's somewhere in my conversations. This is a play-by-play clip for you.
All right.
Okay. And this is the USHL.
Okay.
You respect that league, right? That's a good league. Yeah, I mean, it legitimately is a good league.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to try and find this.
Great speed here.
Tell me if you like this call.
Patience from Sean Farrell. Wildfire speed as Ryan Ufko has a goal right back to Farrell. Coronado scores. Spar down.
Hey, that guy's going to always be remembered, I think. I mean, I've never heard anything like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If you can give me one of those next year, if I score a goal, give me one, just one time.
Maybe like Lou.
Yeah.
Like there he is. Johnny scores. Louie Caporusso.
Yeah.
The Bison.
Macho Man Randy Savage in the.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would be a good one right there. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I showed that like 12 times yesterday to multiple people, including our front office staff in the conference room. I'm not making fun of the guy. I think it's hilarious. Like in a good way. Like you make people laugh. Yeah. But I just didn't expect it when I heard the call.
No, I didn't expect that either. That was ridiculous and funny at the same time.
I wonder if he says offsides.
He's probably an offsides guy.
Offsides.
Yeah, based on what I've heard there, he's probably an offsides guy.
We, I think a minute into this, I was going to bring up kids.
Yeah.
Let's just randomly switch gears because
that's all right.
You were telling me, and I. By the way, and again, I use the term pumping your tires. I'm not trying to do this. I'm giving you credit where credit's due. That's what it is. I'm not just saying something to say it. I think you're a very intelligent guy who tries to put your toe in the water of everything so you're knowledgeable of everything. And I think that's fun because you get a lot of insight from people like that. Like you, Sean Bonner, is like a walking genius in my opinion.
Big time.
Brandon Yeamans, underrated.
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover because I thought here's some kid coming out of college who just thinks he's all that. He's a really smart guy.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So tell me your little bit of research that you know at least about having kids because you're 32, going to be 33. I'm 27. We were talking about it. I don't have any yet. I think I want to at some point. But like you were saying that basically I need to have 2 to replace me.
That's right. Well, I'll go back to the first thing you said about me dabbling in a lot of things. It's funny. I had a friend who had a psychic girlfriend at the time. And she looked at my hands and she said, like, apparently I have like longer thumbs. And she said, if you have long thumbs, you typically are a person who prefers to get really, really into one thing or get obsessed or really, dive in deep into one thing. But I don't see myself as that kind of person at all. So I just thought that was interesting.
Okay.
But
that is interesting. How long ago was this?
This was probably 12 years ago.
Okay.
10, 12 years ago. But I would say that that's a pretty good observation by you. I do like to dabble into a lot of things and learn about a lot of things that are other than hockey and the normal things. But so children, how do I deal with 2 children? Is that the question?
It's a mix of that. And then you were telling me, you're like, listen, like we have a population crisis.
Yes. So I don't know if anyone knows, but I'm a big Elon Musk fan.
Okay.
I'm a huge Elon Musk fan. And a lot of times, whatever he says, I take as the truth.
All
and
right.
I know sometimes he can be wrong, but I'm a big Tesla fan, big Elon Musk guy. And he brought this to my attention. The economy and the world, or the economy in general, would collapse if we started losing our population. And I think a lot of times people think that we are making too many people, but the truth is our birth rate, the human birth rate on Earth is steadily like starting to come down, and especially in Europe, it's been like bad for quite some time, and in Japan, I think it was said that last year, or I don't know if the last couple of years, that they've lost 600,000 people.
Wow.
So that's less Hiranos for the Cyclones. Right.
I guess so.
So I mean, Japan basically is going to lose its entire population if nothing is done by that, and it'll happen quicker than you think because it's just 100-year span of generations.
Right.
So if we're not making enough babies, then we run the risk of losing cultures and having an economic collapse because, as you know, or maybe don't know, the economy only works by growing.
Well, sure.
So if we're not growing as humanity's not growing anymore, we can be in trouble. But, the point I made earlier to you is a lot of people don't think about this, but you and someone else need to have 2 children just to replace yourselves. So a lot, and I think when I speak with people my age or people around my age these days, I don't see them wanting to have more than 2 children or have children at all.
Right. So I guess the whole point, so to your point, like I need to have 2 kids because I'm going to have kids with somebody. So there's two of us.
Yes.
So if the two of us combined to only have one child, then we lose one.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you're -1.
I -1. There you go. Nice plus minus, man.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a good one. Well, in terms of the whole Elon Musk thing, I think he's only been on Joe Rogan Experience once, and that's where I get my knowledge from. Yeah. But you know what? Joe Rogan has a ton of different guests, and some of them, like a lot of them, are comedians and stuff. But I think, and I don't listen to all of his, but like, dude, he brings a lot of different people on there.
He does.
You know, whether it's philosophical people, or I mean, like one of the most interesting ones I watched during the pandemic was Bob Lazar. Mm-hmm. You know Bob Lazar?
Yep.
The Area 51 guy.
Yeah, very interesting.
Very, right? And
very
his story,
believable.
100%. Like, and I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm pretty sure this happened.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things. Like, I went down a rabbit hole with him. Like, I just watched documentary after documentary, read things, and I was like, his story hasn't changed.
No.
You know, and like, that's the first thing. And they're spot on. Like, when people were trying to point out, like, oh, could he be lying? Inconsistencies in stories are the giveaway to somebody being a liar.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Especially when so much time has passed that all of a sudden it's like, well, you're telling me this story. Like, what you just told me about, like, you need to have 2 kids to replace yourselves. If I ask you this question in 6 months and you're like, you need to have 3 kids to replace yourself, I'm gonna be like, wait a minute. Like, your story isn't lining up. You're a little inconsistent. He's been the same way for decades now about this story. It's crazy, man.
Yes. I've done the same thing you have. I've looked at past interviews when he was younger, and it's the same story every time.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just put his, like, the podcast with Joe Rogan in my ear, and I'll just like doze off to it because it's just so interesting the way he tells the story. It's like a storybook. It reads like a storybook when he speaks, and I mean, it's hard not to believe him.
No,
it's hard not to believe him.
Seriously, man, like, you know, there's all these conspiracies. There always will be. Gosh, we could dive into that. Like, for me, that is one, and I think now I'm on the side of, like, I think this happened. Yeah. Like, I do. You talk about, like, dabbling your toe and everything. Like, for me, I wouldn't say everything. There's a couple things. The phrase that I keep uttering, like, over and over, whether it's to me or, like, I've been on the phone with my mom recently for Mother's Day, or, like, my girlfriend at home, is, like, knowledge is power.
Okay.
There is nothing, whether it's a positive or negative situation, there should never be a situation where you take nothing away. Even if it's negative, right?
Yep,
like, you learn, okay, time. I don't want that, or I don't want to be like that, right?
Yep.
For me, I love history.
Yep.
I love the idea of, like, how things come to be, and, like, I do fall into conspiracies. Like, Lazar is one, the JFK is another.
That's right.
JFK
a lot of
is
people go down that rabbit hole. I've never been down that one.
No?
But our bus driver, Ronnie, so I would
Good
I don't
Ronnie.
know if we could talk about it, but I would always sit up front. You know that.
Yeah, I do.
And
that's where I said I've learned so much about you just by hearing behind the curtain. Talk about it. Open up.
Oh no, I would just sit up front with our bus driver, and he was Ronnie was just what a character. He's just so interesting to listen to. It's
and
like
a great person.
Very great person, and he's just, man, he's like a book. And I would sit up there, and it's like I had a live documentary going. Yeah. And he would just talk, and I would just listen and try to absorb what he was saying. Yeah. And we had a lot of the same philosophies towards life. And sometimes I find that's nice to break up a road trip because you're seeing the same guys a lot when you're on a team. And then it's nice to spend some time talking to somebody from a different neck of the woods.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think, too, like, he's got one of those voices. Like, it's funny because it carries, it's very loud and, like, boisterous, but, like, at the same time, it's, to your point, when you have somebody that has just been down that road, man, those miles are pages for him, right? Like, every mile he's drove, that's his job.
That's right.
Our part of our job is being on the road. His job is on the road. He doesn't have a Heritage Bank Center to come home to. I mean, he's got his house, I'm sure, but, like, that's not his home base for work.
No.
His base for work is that bus, and it's moving at all times.
Yeah, and I find drivers in particular, they spend a lot of time with themselves.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
right?
They're little sages in their own way because if you're sitting there, and let's just say you're driving, as much as you're driving as a driver, I mean, it ends up becoming like a meditation in itself. Yeah. And I'm sure they've ran over the same thoughts quite a few times.
Yeah, there's got to be zen to it.
That's right. There has to be some zen. There has to be some sort of grip they must have on their thoughts at some point.
Yeah.
So I always find it interesting to pick their brains.
Yeah. Well, and he's, and like I said, you know, for his voice being so loud and he's got that laugh that you could hear in the back of the bus, like,
that's right.
He's also got a very calming presence to him.
Big
like
time.
His voice is loud, but his energy is very zen.
That's right.
And to your point, like I've been in a couple conversations with him. I think the biggest one for me was when we went to Iowa in March, a few of us went to Field of Dreams. And by a few, I mean like our hockey ops staff and Zach Andrusiak.
Yeah.
And that was it
Yeah.
for the players. But like, dude, we're on this huge bus. There's like 5 of us.
Yeah.
I think there is only 5. Actually, there's 6 with Ronnie. And dude, I sat in that captain seat for a little bit and just listened to him talk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he's got that effect where like, I'm listening, I didn't fall asleep, but you feel like you could relax yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was comparable to putting some, like a podcast in your ears.
Yeah.
And when he would talk to me a lot about the JFK, he knows a lot about that.
I know.
And he's good. Like, he's good at deciphering what's a conspiracy and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I trust his point of view. And there was like a couple things I just, I asked him about, and he would let me know straight up if he thought it was a conspiracy, and I kind of agree with his opinions.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, I love that, because if you have a thought about something, if you know the other person is intelligent enough to speak on it, it's fun to be like, hey, what do you think?
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, I won't name a player because I don't have a good example, but like actually, the hell with it. I will. Like, I don't know if Justin Vive knows anything about JFK. Maybe he's a huge conspiracy like theorist.
Yeah.
But like, I can't go to Viver and be like, hey, do you think Lee Harvey Oswald did it? And he'd be like, I don't even know who Lee Harvey Oswald is.
That's
like,
right.
then
That's
I can't have that conversation with him.
That's
like
right.
Ronnie is probably going to have an opinion on everything.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
right. And he's well versed. Like, he's well read. Sorry,
Yeah.
He's well read, and he knows a lot. And I just think it brings me back to this point of just being like, learning in general is something you have to learn to do, which sounds strange, but I'm starting to realize that more and more as I get older. And people who learn this quick or learn this when they're young end up being incredibly intelligent and successful. And it's learning how to learn. And I think the beginning of that starts with being radically receptive. Like, I think we all look at things through a perception goggles, and we don't always absorb everything we're hearing or what exactly is happening to us or what is said to us because we have our perception goggles on. And I think if you can try to get to the fundamental truths and try to be completely objective with whatever you're hearing, your growth would be, transformative, I think, constantly. So, and Ronnie's just one of those characters, and it can happen with anything. I believe that life and people in general, you never know what they have to teach you.
I know. I agree with that.
I remember when I was in Binghamton, I wasn't getting much ice. I was probably really frustrated. I wasn't having the best season, and the coach wasn't a fan, to say the least. And I remember I was a rookie, so I would have to grab a lot of the bags and bring them into the dressing room. And I thought to myself, like, okay, there's probably some guys on this team that I think I'm better than, that I'm probably upset that are playing over me, or there's probably guys that, maybe I just don't like, or the whole situation I just don't like. But I would grab each bag and I would look at the number on the bag, and I would say to myself, okay, what is one thing this guy does really well? And regardless of how I feel about him as a person or as a player, there's got to be one thing that this guy does well. Yeah. And what is it? And can I attribute that to my own game or to myself as a person? Yeah. And I think that kind of opens you up to be a little more receptive to everybody, regardless if they're good or bad in your eyes. Right. I think everybody and everything has something to teach us.
I think that goes back to the whole, like, knowledge is power for positivity or negativity. That's a great way to look at it. I love that story. Like, there are things that, in my experience, like, both working in the hockey business, just you're on ice, I'm off. But like, every single person you meet has to have some kind of story, and you can either relate to it or not. But I think there are a few people, not everybody, and I would assume you'll agree with me when I say this, that you're like, example, you've met hundreds of hockey players now since turning pro, a decade ago, call it. There are some guys that, like, if I say the name, you'll remember playing with him, but like, okay, I just played with him. I don't really know a lot, A couple of guys that maybe say something to you that just you'll always remember. Yep. There's a couple of things that, I got one thing told to me. I remember I was a sophomore in college. I visited the Philadelphia Flyers, my boyhood team. Like, I love them. I guess that would be my destination spot. I'm not as picky really now that I'm an employee. Like, for me, I just want to go where the NHL will eventually allow me if I'm ever so fortunate. But like, I met Tim Saunders, radio play-by-play broadcaster for the Flyers, 3 words. And I don't know why I never thought of it this way, but he goes, because I was like, oh, Mr. Saunders, I'm Andrew Mossbrooks. Like, I would love to be in your shoes one day.
Yeah,
like
the pitch of your voice was through the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what could I do to be any advice that you could bestow upon me, whatever. I'm really nervous, whatever. I'm 19, 20 years old at the time. And the first thing he said to me is, always remember, commentary is subjective. Those 3 words, commentary is subjective.
Yeah.
I could think this is great, and I could tell you to listen to it, and you could think it sucks, and vice versa. And it's so simple, because it really is. Like, and I think it even abides by being a hockey player. Like, somebody could think your game is amazing, but you know this.
Right.
There's a coach that may not see you the same way. You go to another team in the ECHL, you may not get utilized the way you were in Cincinnati.
That's right.
It's all subjective. Everything, and perception is reality. So the way that people see you matters so much, because at the end
manifests.
Yes, manifest. Great word for it. Like, it's just, I think for me, what you said about the hockey bags, and that I look at a number and there's got to be one thing of each guy basically that you can respect.
That's right.
Right. And what you can bring to yourself, man, like that's a great thing. Like,
yeah. It was just something I kind of thought about doing out by myself. I find when you're kind of at a low points in your life, you come up with some pretty interesting stuff. You come up with some of your best stuff that'll propel you forward.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I
think for me, another thing that's changed is, like, I bring up NHL, and I would assume you could probably relate to this. Like, there's a level of I live in the world of everything. I live in the world of optimism. I live in the world of reality, and I live in the world of being pragmatic at times.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for me, when I was in college, I said my ultimate goal is to be an NHL play-by-play broadcaster.
Great.
That was at 22, 23 years old when I graduated. 4 years passed. Now the way I word it is my ultimate career goal is to be an NHL play-by-play broadcaster. My ultimate goal is honestly to just be happy in life.
That's right.
Like, I think if I put all my eggs in one basket, like, I set myself up for just going insane in my head. Whereas, like, if I can just focus on being happy, and again, I feel like you can relate, and I don't know if I'm peeling a curtain back that I shouldn't, but, like, you were a draft pick in 2007. You went to the American Hockey League, ultimately found yourself in Europe, now in the ECHL for the first time in like 7-8 years. But I assume you kind of have the same mindset. Like, you just need to be happy in life.
Big time. And I think, that's probably the biggest challenge for a lot of people. Probably the majority of people is trying to enjoy life. I mean, back to being kids again, or back to kids again, I have a cheat code with my kids.
Yeah. What is that?
I just have children, and it's a cheat code because I get to come home, and I totally stop. I don't think about the rink, for those moments I'm with them. It's hard for me to think about hockey, and I feel like it's a nice balance. And even for hockey players, I know sometimes players are like, I want to focus on my career, but at some point they are such a release. I mean, when you get home, we talk about fixing up the house, and I don't mean to get sentimental, but a family and children are great for just giving you that break from the rink and giving you that joy and happiness. It's like a forced joy and happiness because they're just there, and you can't help but feel that love and excitement to see them. But if you don't have children, I know that feeling of you have to actively try to make yourself, or actively remind yourself that, hey, like, I need to enjoy my life. I can't always be on this treadmill thinking about how do I get to the next stop. Yeah. And I think I was explaining this to Karen's dad, actually. Karen's dad. And like I was talking to him after our Toledo game, and we were talking about hockey and the career you go through. And I told him, I said, my hockey career could probably be summed up with you're eating and then you're on your way to eat the next piece of shit. And then you're on the way to eat the next piece of shit. And by that I meant, there's always times in your career or in life where it feels like you're just eating.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
Right, and it's like you're and it's not going to ever stop.
Yeah,
you're constantly gonna. If you want to do anything in your life, you're gonna have to eat the next piece.
Yeah,
and then move on to the next piece.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, well, at the end of the day, too, like these jobs for you guys, for anybody that work in sports, like sports is such a tricky business. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. I think the way you put it is pretty accurate. Like I'll put it this way. Like I view both the NHL and working in sports as like the golden carrot that they just dangle in front of you. Like, remember they'd make commercials, or they'd make, I don't know if it's commercial or a cartoon, but it would be like, you know, I'm not trying to say this like out of line, but it would be like, it's kind of a mean joke, but you know, you would see like perhaps like an overweight person would be like on a treadmill with like some string and like a Twinkie in front of them. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like a carrot dangling in front of you.
Yeah, right? They keep running, but they can't grab it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's sports sometimes in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Because you get to come here, and when I went to college, it's like, what did I see? I saw the NHL. I saw Doc Emmerich on TV, or Bob Cole in Toronto, and all,
I grew up with Bob Cole,
the glitz and glamour of all this. Dude, if you want to be that, and as you know this too, like, you got drafted from the Ottawa Senators. Like, oh, wow. Like, I could be playing at, you know, the, what do they even call it now? Is it Air Canada Center?
They switched the name
Scott
of that,
Trade Center?
No, they switched the name of that rink so often. I think it's Canadian Tire Center now.
Canadian Tire Center.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you could be sitting there like, oh my gosh, I'm going to play in the Canadian Tire Center. Like, I'm going to be an NHLer with 20,000 fans. It's like me. I want to call a game in front of 20,000 fans. But to do that, and first off, you don't even know if you're ever going to get to do it. But then you got to start at like a cold ass ice rink. In my case, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania, and there's like 10 fans. They're all billets, and there's just nothing. Yep. You're calling the game from like a freaking stick mic, you know, on a picnic table.
That's right.
That's your NHL. Yep. That's how you have to treat it. You know, I got close to moving. I mean, I look at some of the jobs that I could have, that I was either a runner-up for, or I applied and interviewed but didn't get. I could have been in Kearney, Nebraska. I could have been in Lincoln, Nebraska. I could have been in... You know, where is it? Is it Sheboygan in Kansas or Kansas City or something like not Kansas City. I think it's Sheboygan, Kansas. But like, dude, these places are just like random. You couldn't point them out. Like nobody's going to be like, oh, good old Kearney, Nebraska. I know that place. Like great food. Nobody knows what Kearney, Nebraska is like, except the people that live there, and most of them have lived there their whole lives.
That's right.
Here you are coming from a city or coming from a big, more metropolitan area. To just some, like, I don't even know. I'm out, feel like you're out in like the boonies, like, you know.
But how is it with like the commentating and the media aspect of it compared to, because I know, you know, there's always that like country club element to any hierarchy of jobs, right? Like, is it the same way in the media world? Is it everyone kind of like I'm always interested in how some people are able to network their way to the top so quick, and others seem to have to grind their way and take 20 years to get there.
Dude, the Beauty and the Beast, which I'm sure you've at least seen once with your kids.
About 100 times,
The Beauty and the Beast, and I don't want to go off on this too long because I know we're already going to be going a bit over here, but Beauty and the Beast in broadcasting, and in my opinion, in our industry, is... There's no blueprint, and that acts as both. It's a beautiful thing because you can get that luck of the draw and be where you are a lot quicker than maybe you should or at least expected. The beast of it is you see other people do it too. And when you're not that person, it hurts. Especially if you let it get to you, which I've had to do a little bit of self-consoling to remind myself not to let those things get to me.
Okay.
Because I've tried networking. I tried navigating relationships. Your relationship with Alex Becerra growing up isn't necessarily the reason why you're here because you were brought in before he came in. But ultimately, your relationships with those people in the Toronto area perhaps made Cincinnati an easier destination to land. I don't know that, but like it could be. You know, you network to get your next team that you can play for. I think for us, it's similar. And the golden carrot is hey, if you keep, you know, basically getting miles on your odometer of life, of experience, you may climb and ascend to the summit. NHL is Mount Everest, man. It's the top of it. And that's where you want to go. But in order to do so, you got to take a job. And this isn't Cincinnati, but like you may start out going to Kearney, Nebraska for $20,000 to work 65 hours a week. And in the summer, they give you 2 weeks paid vacation. But do you want it? Do you want it? You want to continue playing pro hockey. You're from Canada, but you've got to move to Germany. You've got to move to Italy.
You want it.
Do you want to keep playing?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. No, big times. A lot of times you come to those crossroads where how far do I want to go down this road?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
It's interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know how that quote goes or that saying. It's like luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
That's
so
a good
I think
way to
it's
look
like,
at it.
you stay prepared and you stay open and you stay ready.
Yeah.
And you never know when that opportunity comes, and all of a sudden it looks like it was lucky, but you happen to be ready at the time when the opportunity came. So.
Yeah, think about risk and opportunity. They don't sound alike when you sound them out, but they are the same.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they are.
Yeah.
A risk provides an opportunity. An opportunity comes with a risk, right?
100%.
Look at this.
You can't get anywhere without risk.
Look at this philosophical conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it went down the philosophical route.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brothers always make fun of me because they say I'm all philosophy.
It's fun, man.
But
we can have our own and again, we'll probably wrap it up here very soon. I'm going to ask you at least one or two more things, but man, this is one of those where I wish we had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
This would have gone another hour.
Yeah, I feel like I always see these podcasts are like 2-3 hours. I say, man, how do they talk that long? Now I feel like we could probably go a couple hours.
We definitely could. All right. Well, risk and opportunity. Let's segue that in a way that it may not make sense. You took the opportunity to take a puck and throw it out into the stands.
Oh yeah.
And you took the risk. Did you mean to do it? I don't think you did.
The puck just came to me, and I was upset that we had let a goal in that could have been avoided.
Sure.
And I just kind of typical. You're in practice, the guy scores, or you just kind of whack the puck out of the way. You're like, get this thing out of here.
Yeah.
I think it's because I don't know if people know this, but you need to have a good flick in hockey.
Yep.
If you don't have a good flick, and by a flick I mean being able to lift the puck really high for a good distance.
Yeah.
If you don't have that tool in your tool bag, it's tough to get yourself out of jams or sticky situations, let's say in the D zone or on a penalty kill. So I pride myself on always practicing the flick and always making sure that is on point. I practice it in the warm-ups and practice. So I want to make sure that when comes time for me to flick the puck, it flicks high and far. But because if you don't get it high and far, what happens is it ends up just going maybe 5 or 6 feet high and not too far, and the other guy just grabs it, puts it down, and puts it in your net.
Yep.
So I think it was just I was too calibrated at the time, and the puck came to me, and I just said, "Get this thing out of here," and it went up, and I actually did worry for a split second that it would hit somebody, and I actually followed it with my eyes. I said, "Oh man, I hope that doesn't hurt anybody." Judging by the pace of what it was going, it wouldn't have hurt anybody anyways, but you can't help but think that way. And I think it hit some guy, and I don't know, he had a beer or popcorn, it hit him in the leg or something. And then the linesman came up to me and said, "You're gone." And I thought, okay, maybe for this game, I didn't expect to get suspended a whole nother game, let alone game 7, which would have been great to play.
I didn't know that was a rule.
Me neither. This is the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, because I guess their argument is you intentionally threw it out. I guess.
I'm surprised they don't review those type of things. I was surprised they didn't review it and say, okay, does he have a history of doing things with fans, A, or did he intend to hurt somebody, B?
Yeah.
Or did he even intend to knock it out of the rink? And when you look at the clip, I don't see that at all.
Yeah, I actually didn't know you did. Because I'm in the mode of calling the goal. I think it was Mackenzie's goal. It may have 2-0 in Game 6, third period. And then, next thing you know, Luke Brown's sitting in the box for you. And I'm like, oh. And it's game misconduct for clearing the puck. And I was like, I didn't even know that.
Yep.
Maybe a 2-minute delay of game penalty.
I had no idea that was even a penalty. It makes sense. I would hate to see someone get hurt from someone shooting a puck intentionally into the stands. That would be tough. But I thought they would review it and at least in the playoffs understand that it was totally unintentional. But apparently not. The rule is the rule.
So let's put a bow on this here. I feel like kind of jumping into the bow, but we don't have as much time as I'd love to have. These podcasts are all about the same time, 30, 45 minute window. But what we're talking about again, Game 6, you end up getting the suspension. Unfortunately, team bows out here in a 7-game series of the first place Walleye, who at the time of this recording are on the verge of sweeping Wheeling possibly. Now we're in the off season though. I mean, for you, what's on your agenda? What does the offside? I know you said about going home and stuff, but Are you full dad for the entire time? How often are you off the ice? When are you in the gym, or are you kind of just getting your reset right now?
I would say the last 10 days or so, I've been trying to just get myself healthy. I was playing with in the playoffs. I got injured, and I was playing through an injury.
Yep.
Through the whole playoffs, and there was a lot of other nagging injuries that kind of sneak up on you, but that's pretty typical stuff. I think at the end of the season, your body just it's like all these injuries that I've had over the course of the year or the years, they kind of all come back from the grave.
Yeah.
And they come pay their respects for a bit. And then I think usually I take a couple weeks off just to get my body inflammation down.
Sure.
And then I try not to start, because I like to not necessarily diet, but I like to watch what I'm eating, and I like to obviously work out during the summer, but I try not to start both of those at the same time. Right. Because I find that's too hard on the body. So I'll usually start either working out or start my diet first, and then phase in either working out or phase in the diet. And but I'll be here in Cincinnati for the majority of the summer. I'll probably go home for a couple, 2-3 weeks, go see my family, and see my mom, my dad. My mom and dad are actually coming here this weekend to visit my brother, who actually lives in the area,
who
just had a kid. My mom actually is a big fan of you. Yeah, she watches all the games.
But did she say she was a big fan?
She said, he's always supporting you. That's what she said. He's always supporting you. And he's always looking out for she loves when you call my name, because she can realize where I am. And
there's subtleties, man. Yeah. If guys treat the broadcaster well, they may get a bit more of a rub on air. That's how it works.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. No, because she didn't really follow me when I was in Europe because the time change. Okay. But my mom really got into it this season, so she's probably got your voice in her head.
What's her name?
All the time. Maria.
Maria, I appreciate you listening. Yeah. Thank you.
And my dad's Gino.
Gino
and Maria, if that's not Italian enough for you, I don't know.
Mr. Estevez.
And that's where the philosophy comes from, is from Gino.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's big time. The talks I had with him growing up just to the rink, and he's a big reason I am the player I am, and the way I am.
That's awesome. Well, shout out to both Maria and Gino, and hopefully more. I know we're going to have more of these conversations off air. We already have before this, but hopefully we have another one on air for this podcast. Louie, thanks so much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Mosser, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for being on here. That was another 2 for Chirping, Louie Caporusso.